No, thank you very much. Apart from being part of the C40 cities, as a representative from the city of Johannesburg, I'm also the chairperson of the South African Local Government Association. And we found out that one of the key issues is really to ensure that the issue of global warming and climate change is part of local government agenda. In other words, ensure that municipalities, in 283 municipalities in South Africa, engage in an ongoing way, discusses the issue, demystify global warming and climate change, and make it an issue that should grapple with really a lot of emphasis on the need to master the art of doing things that relate to this big question and translate from being a mere debate into something that's practicable, something practical, something that everybody should be grappling with on a day-to-day basis. Secondly, on the question of partners, I must agree with you that indeed there's a lot more that needs to be done to ensure that we win over people so that they can grapple with this issue on a day-to-day basis. One example that I can give is that in the city of Johannesburg, we found out that many of our universities are training their students in a way that suggests they're going to work amongst the wealthy and do planning and do work related to engineering in a manner totally removed from the day-to-day realities and difficulties and issues that confront especially the poor. Many professors and so on have now been to an informal settlement. They have no clue on what is it that needs to be done to address issues of informal settlements and issues like these. So it's very important that we win everybody and get even our education to be so oriented that it is pro-poor and very familiar and positive towards addressing issues of global change and global warming and climate change.
Well, I think Mayor Bloomberg already said it greatly, but I think, I compliment the mayor in New York City. We do a lot of things whenever we provide subsidies for private development. Green building and technology are often some of the requirements that we insist upon. And in New York City, we have over $100 billion of pension funds that we often leverage as a member of Ceres. So just a couple of examples.
So in answer to your first question, it's our perspective in Toronto, and I think I speak on behalf of all of the C40 cities. We believe that if you do the right thing for the environment, it's actually the right thing for the economy. This idea that they're opposed is wrong on many levels. So your question was about training. I'll give an example of one project which is called Tower Renewal. It was the intellectual idea came from engineering faculty members at the University of Toronto, adopted by architects and adapted. The simple idea is that you do energy retrofits by external cladding on residential apartment buildings. In the Canadian context, the training necessary for that work, because it's a new technology, needs to be done by the trade unions. So we're working with the trade unions to train people, particularly in lower income neighborhoods, to have these good jobs. The second thing is the architects involved have helped us train other architects and engineers. For example, 2 years ago, I was in Chongqing on a business mission, and the architects came with us and held a seminar for architects and engineers in Chongqing. Subsequently, they've done the same thing in Canada with other architects and engineers from China to spread that knowledge. As for myself, I also take transit, following Mayor Bloomberg's example. My city car is a hybrid vehicle. And my wife just had a birthday with a round number. It's not 20. So her present for the birthday was a new garden, which we planted all with native plants, because that's a very important part in our environment, to plant native plants rather than foreign ones to help our local ecology. Yes, I'll go here, and then we'll go across the room this way.
Yuan Ying, reporter from Southern Weekly. The first part of my question is, can I have your quick comments on Chinese mayor's speech just now? Which part of their speech impressed you the most or interests you the most? Second part of my speech, my question is concerning the sustainable development of the city. For a mayor, what is the biggest challenge you are facing right now in your city? Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Masondo, we'll go this way.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I guess what really impressed me the most about the speeches from Chinese mayors were that they were really related to concrete conditions and issues that they're grappling with on a day-to-day basis. And one gets the sense that there's an acknowledgement that although they are acknowledgement first and foremost that there are problems. But there's also a sense that a lot of progress is being made. There's a long way to go, but a lot of progress is being made, that things are moving in the right kind of direction. On the question of sustainable development, for me, I mean, the most important issue is that the concept of sustainable development and this whole idea of addressing economic as well as environmental issues that at the same time and so on, seem to be appealing. And this inclination that environment is much more important, and therefore the survival of the species and the protection of the planet Earth remains an important issue to most of us, which I think it's really assisting to move things in the right kind of direction.
I mean, I think the most impressive thing this morning was that they were there. 10 years ago, they would not have been there. You know, China's still a country with 150 million people that live on $1 a day. They've got an enormous problem of bringing these people into the society and giving them the dignity of being able to be self-supporting and have a good life. And so job creation, economic development has always been modern-day China's #1 priority. But for the first time, there is a understanding in China that the environment is something that they cannot walk away from. They can't treat as a second-class citizen anymore. When they're starting to get your rivers polluted and your air unfit to breathe, you've got to do something about it. And here you see that they are actually doing something. So, you know, it may be the beginning, but you've got to, if you want to get a hand of cards to play, you've got to come to the table, and they are certainly doing that. And in terms of what's the most difficult thing at the moment in sustainability, when the economy turns down, as it has throughout the world, it's hard to get people to focus on the economy. I would argue that that's exactly the time that you do have to do it, and it's a good time to do it, because if you want to spend money, you can get a lot more for your money at that time. But that's clearly the biggest problem. The whole environmental movement's been slowed down by this worldwide recession.
I liked the mayor who looked the national government representative in the eye and said, "We need more money." And the biggest challenge in many cities in the world on a number of issues is the fact that either regulatory jurisdiction or financial resources are in the hands of a national, state, or provincial government. And in order to get our work done, we need their cooperation, and sometimes that's impossible to get.
Should I?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, in Hong Kong, of course, we are very accustomed to talking to our sort of neighbors. But I think this morning's session reinforced one thing. There's not so much any cultural divide, economic divide, or boundary divide in the fight against climate change. And the three mayors are coming from different provinces, different economic and metropolitan background. Changsha is more industrial. Kunming is more itself a more green city. Shenzhen, because of its proximity to Hong Kong, undergoing different development pathway. But one thing in common is we're all tackling about the same problem And it must be a hands-on sort of experience that, well, it's time to act rather than to sort of talk. And therefore, I think, as usual, Hong Kong can play a role where by allowing this platform, we get a better understanding of what we together need. And also, there shouldn't be any barrier between inland or overseas, because, well, that's exactly Hong Kong as a gateway city can do, and particularly in driving towards a low carbon city development. Thank you.
And I think what the Chinese mayor said just reminds us how much similarity we have all across the world with major cities. In New York City, our major challenge, I think, has to do with our aging infrastructure, combined with a population growth, 500,000 every decade over the last 3 decades, another 1 million over the next 2 decades. It's a place where rebuilding the infrastructure is a key component to our city's success. And that's why with the mayor's leadership and the city council's cooperation, we've got a $28 billion capital plan over the next 4 years to reinvest in the city's infrastructure, of course, in an environmentally sound manner.
Yes, I think here, and then we'll go here, and then over there, and then I'll go to the middle on this side, okay?
Olga Wong from the South China Morning Post. We learned from the morning session that both the New York and Toronto cities have spent much efforts in dealing with in retrofitting the existing buildings. And one problem that Hong Kong is facing is about the multiple ownership, which makes owners for owners, they are very difficult to reach consensus in tackling this complicated task. I wonder if the 2 mayors can share with us how you have tackled or deal with this problem, and what are the major difficulties that you faced when dealing with the retrofitting. Thank you.
When there's multiple owners, it's just harder to get them together. In our case, it's more really the tenants typically in a New York City lease pay for the utilities, but they're not metered typically, so everybody pays a share. And if the landlord has to invest in the building, he says, well, the tenants are going to get the benefit because their energy costs are going down, but I've got to put the money in. It's finding some ways to make sure that both get together. What I would argue to the landlord is, as your leases turn over, the building is going to be more attractive to potential tenants who'll be able to get a higher rents because the tenants' energy costs will be lower. So whether it's painting the roof of a building, which can dramatically reduce your energy costs, redoing a boiler so that it uses a different kind of fuel, redoing your air conditioning, much more modern stuff, putting in lighting fixtures that turn off when there's nobody there, those kinds of things. If both sides can't get together, nothing happens, but you can find ways, I think, to make both sides understand it's in their benefit, maybe some long-term, some short-term. And our building code changes require you to upgrade, but only if the savings get paid back to whoever has to put the money in. I think it's within 5 years, it's something like that. So if the payback is longer, we don't force you to do it because it's just uneconomic and the building owners can't afford it.